Hey y'all, it's Laura, and I'm back with a DIY embellishment video that I'm going to be turning into a process video. So for the price of one video, you're getting two. Now this is for the Kitaholic Kits Australia Day crop, and I am using a bunch of pocket page cards that I have punched out into circles. Now I have used both a 1-inch circle and I believe the other one is 2.5 maybe. It's pretty big. And I'm going to go ahead and create some gold dipped looking circles and then turn them into embellishments for a circle background. Now I have 3 photos here to the side. I cannot show you the pictures, the faces on the pictures because they are of my niece, and I'm not allowed to share those. So I just covered her up with little epoxy flares, and then I'm going to go ahead and create my circles by using these white bases that I cut out of scrap pieces of paper and then just taping them together. So as you can see, now we have a circle that is partially pattern paper and partially gold glitter, and all of this came from pocket page cards from one of those little theme kits that Project Life put out quite a while ago. And I'm sorry I don't know the name of it, but it had a lot of gold glitter cards. And so I'm using those rounded corner cards to make these DIY embellishments. I've fussy cut out several embellishments from other cards, and it did come with a small pack of embellishments as well. So they're very birthday themed, and I thought we would go ahead and go with that birthday theme by using these 3 photos on the side to scrap a 12 by 12 layout. Now this will go in my family album, not in the baby album itself, which is in 9 by 12, but this is her 2nd birthday anyway, so it wouldn't be in the baby album anyway. So putting together these circles, I'm trying to keep them fairly simple to make them quick, and also so that they don't overpower the completed layout. I do end up using all of these embellishments except one, and I was pretty excited about that. Now, I'm mostly just doing a banner for these larger circles, doing a banner across the center. So on the top one, I had a little embellishment that stretched across that said, "Be kind," and then tucked some little florals behind it. The second one has "Yay" in letters that I fussy cut from one of the cards, and then I just tucked a star behind it. I will go back and add some Nuvo drops there for a little bit of that scattering and splattering effect, those fine details I do really enjoy adding to all of my projects. This one, I decided to do a bunch of candles that I did fussy cut out of cards across the center of the circle, and then I'll put a banner on top. And so they're all very different little embellishments, and the large ones are different from the smaller ones. The smaller ones I kept very simple, using mostly tiny word stickers and some of the tiny shapes, and these larger ones I wanted to stand out a little bit more because they are functioning something like a title. So once I get these all glued down, now dealing with gold glitter paper, glue is your friend for trying to attach things to the top of it. And that is a little tip for you if you're dealing with gold glitter. Some of them are half and half with the gold glitter paper. Some of them are fully gold glitter, and I wanted to mix it up a little bit so that they didn't look exactly the same all around the layout. Now here I come in with the Nuvo drops to add just a couple little touches. Some of them I have added some tiny little hearts that I fussy cut from washi tape, and that's again functioning as my scattering on these tiny embellishments. And it's interesting to see that I can use so many of these on one page because some of them are pretty big. So now that I have those 3 done, I decide on this last one to use this number 2. It is her 2nd birthday, and I thought that was pretty appropriate. It mostly functions as my title, really, this number 2. And so just added a tiny word phrase and a star tucked behind it. Again, keeping it really simple. The best way to go with embellishments like these is to keep them simple and generic. Now, because I am intending to use all of these on a layout, I can go with more of a theme, and I know it will work, but generally speaking, on embellishments, it's better to go a little bit more broad with the theme so that you can use them on a variety of layouts. Now, on these smaller ones, I am mimicking the same thing, having a little bit of gold, a little bit of pattern, and then just very simply going with a word phrase sticker and a heart, or a word phrase sticker and a star. Just very simple embellishing on these. These don't need to stand out significantly, and they're going to be layered on top of just circles in the background. So it's going to kind of look like a falling drops of circles in the background, and then her photos will be in a bit of a staggered grid on the left side of the page. I will end up leaving the right side of the page fairly blank. That way it kind of balances out the bit of craziness that will go on the left. So now I've got these tiny little hearts that I'm adding for embellishment on these tiny little circles. So just so you know, I will hold them up for you in just a minute when I've finished making them. Normally with DIY embellishment videos, I zoom my camera in quite a bit so you can see them being made in more detail. But because I am going to immediately start using them onto a layout, I went ahead and left my camera at its normal position because it's kind of tricky to get it back where I need it to be and make sure that I can show you guys the entire layout while I'm making it. Same process here though, adding tape to these pieces of scrap and then layering on my pattern and then the gold as well. This was really quick and easy. It was just a really fun idea. There was a trend a while back of having gold dipped embellishments that you could buy, and I thought that was such a cool idea that I saw these pocket page cards and figured, hey, let's go for it. You'll notice I do a lot of little fishtailing to the end of my tiny word stickers, and that's just to make them a little bit more interesting. And in this case, it was also to shorten it because it had a lot of empty space outside of the word phrase. And so I'm shortening it down to fit a little better on this 1-inch circle. And then I'll just add one of these tiny little washi hearts on it, a couple drops of Nuvo, and it's done. These don't have to be complicated. It's actually better if they're not, especially if you're going to be using several on one page, because they can very quickly and easily overpower the page. So now I've done two, let's see, one has a bit of a stripe and then the gold, the other one has a blue and the gold. This one I actually grabbed a fully cut pink polka dot circle and then went ahead and added the gold directly on top. So that would be the easier way to go, but because I was using pocket page cards for these patterns, I did find that it was helpful to be able to cut into the sides around the outside of the card and get quite a few patterns that way and just make better use of your supplies. Now I've grabbed two little candles and I'm going to trim them down to fit inside of the circles, and then I'll add a little word phrase and a heart, I think. And then that's it for this one. So just a couple of ideas of how you can make these DIY embellishments your own, how you can switch up the design of them without having to put a ton of detail into it. Generally, my rule of thumb when making embellishments is a large shape, a small shape, and a word phrase, and then a touch of Nuvo for detailing. And so if you use that large, small, word phrase, touch of Nuvo, I find that's all you really need on embellishments. So this is the last one, and I will hold them up for you in just a moment before we switch over to the layout. So if you just came for the DIY embellishments, here is what they look like. Now there will be challenges all day long today, so be sure to check out the Facebook group for Kitaholic Kits to see the rest of the challenges, and check out on YouTube all of the Kitaholic Kits design team, because they as well all have process videos. Some of them are going live in the group, so definitely be sure to check that out. Now on to the process video. I'm starting with some white cardstock because I do think these are going to make a fairly busy background, and I don't want to compete with that and add to the busyness by going with a pattern paper background. Though you certainly could if you were only using, say, one photo. I am using three 3x4 photos here from my niece's birthday party. And my initial thought was to go on a diagonal. And once I started placing things on, I realized it didn't leave a whole lot of room for my photos and these giant embellishments. And so I decided instead to break it up and use a more grid style. Not quite a perfect grid, just sort of a modified grid. And I'm going to go ahead and start putting down these circles in the background. These are just pre-punched circles of those pocket page cards with a variety of gold glitter and patterns and colors, and keeping the palette fairly simple. If you're going to go crazy with a busy background, it's better to keep the colors palette very simple and very limited. So in this case, I have some that are kind of rainbow-like, but they're just small stripes of color. And then I have the ones that read more as solid, like the pink and the teal, and then there's gold. So it's pretty small, simple color palette to work with, and it works really well with my photos. So I do want some of these to kind of go off the side, or if they were partially punched, I can tuck them behind the photos or off the side of the page, give the impression of them going off the side. This just creates a little bit more interesting of a pattern, and it doesn't look like everything's just being bunched into the center. If you go off the edge purposefully, it just has more of a random and scattered look. So now I'm going to play around with my photos and the placement of these larger embellishments. I always start with the larger items on my layout because they take up the most space. It's much easier to finagle with smaller embellishments after you've gotten the larger pieces in place. And with 3 photos on this layout, I knew it was going to be pretty full on this left side. So I'm purposely leaving that right side open, like I said before, and that helps to kind of give your eye a break from all of the craziness on the left. However, I am being very careful here not to use a lot of dark colors on this layout because there's quite a few dark colors in the background of my photos, and the absence of color rule that I use quite often with my photos is if there is a color that only appears in the photos, it will help draw your eye to that photo. So if I don't use a color, for example, if it's outside and there's a lot of green in your photos, I won't use green in my embellishing. That way your eye is immediately drawn to the photos first because that's the only place on the layout that the green exists. In this case, it is the brown in the background. Sometimes it's the wood floor, sometimes it's the table, and sometimes it's furniture. And I'm not using any brown on this layout at all, even though it's a very dominant color in my photos. For just that reason, for just that color avoidance reason, because it helps to draw your eye immediately to the photos, past all of the embellishments, past all of the pretty things, because they stand out. So once I get everything in position, I did finagle with it, kind of fiddle with it, move things around a lot. I will go ahead and start gluing bits and pieces down and then finishing off the layout from there. I think the hardest part with this layout was trying to decide just how much white space I wanted to leave and if I thought I could get all 4 of the large embellishments on here. I did try quite a few times to squeeze them on here, and it just felt like it didn't fit. Everything didn't seem to have a place, and when that's what's happening in my head, I know that it's time to pull something off the layout. If something feels awkward, it's time to back up a couple of steps and try again. In this case, it is the Be Kind embellishment. It just doesn't seem to fit in, but it's generic enough that I know I could use it on another layout, so that's why I chose that one to be removed and to be replaced with that Yay. Now, as you can see, I've placed the number 2 embellishment toward the center photo there, and it stands out quite a bit in its placement because there's not a lot of other things around it, and that's purposeful. That's going to be my title. My journaling will go underneath of the second photo, and I will create a little niche for it in just a moment when I start embellishing. I am bringing in some epoxy circles from Scrap and Happy Studio for my stash, and I absolutely love them. I have 2 that are rainbows and 1 that says happy, which I thought was perfect for a birthday layout. And so I'm going to go ahead and put those down. Here's some word phrases that I cut out of a pocket page card as well. I'm going to play around with an offset placement just for a little bit of interest. Having that pop of red though from those word phrases did lead me to grab a couple more small areas of red to add around the layout. Nothing big though. Red is a very powerful color and it will very easily dominate the layout if you let it. So by keeping it simple, I think I just had it in 3 places on the layout in a smaller way. That works a whole lot better. I did decide to bring in this kind of a yellow border around the outside just to kind of make everything feel a little bit more contained. I do this quite frequently with my sort of busy and random backgrounds. It just helps to kind of make everything feel intentional and not like it's floating off of the page. Now that everything is glued down, I am going to come in with my Nuvo and some Heidi Swapp Color Shine to do some scattering and splattering. And then I'll add these lines using my T-square ruler for my journaling, just kind of talking about her second birthday and how it went. This is from 2018, so she is going to be... No, this was from 2020. This was the last event we went to before the pandemic hit. Oh man. So these photos are very, very special, and because of that, they have a very special story. Once I finish with my splattering, this layout will be done. I do hope you check out the Kitaholic Kits Facebook group to see more. Until next time, bye guys!